Hello and welcome to the Rangers News Show here on the Rangers Journal. My name is Billy Rankin. I'm joined currently by Cammy. How are you today, mate?
Not bad, not bad. Obviously, the long international break.
Mhm.
It's felt a really long week. Obviously, off the back of Sunday. In an ideal world, you would want to be playing, so you could try and get a reaction after the weekend, But that is what it is. We just have to hope all our players return after international duty. In one piece, and we go to Tannadice, and we just have to win.
Well, it's you and me at the moment, mate. We're hoping Bob is going to join us. I'm hoping Derek's going to join us as well. I'm just going to say at the top, we are live at 12:30 on Friday, but this is for our members basically. So you need to sign up if you want to get content. I don't know what you'd call it, Cammy. Pre-sale content like your Oasis tickets.
Aye,
Um,
we can't
we're
we
going to
can't
do
we can't guarantee anybody an Oasis ticket if they sign up right enough.
no. So if anyone's interested to get some extra shows or some early access shows, if you go to our join section and our members section, sorry, on Rangers Journal YouTube page, you can join up 99 pence a month or 2.99 a month, and you obviously get different content for both tiers. Go and have a look if you'd like to join us on that. We'd really appreciate it. For everybody else, if you're not watching at 12:30 on Friday, the 6th of September, then we're not going to be able to respond to your comments because the show's already went out for the members first. So I got that out of the way, Cammy. So recapping the last week is what we're here to do. I guess we'll need to kind of start where we left off last week, which was halfway through the day in the transfer window. We had brought in, I'm going to butcher the name, Casemiro. Is that how you pronounce it?
I'm sticking with big man,
Big man,
and
that's
and
fine.
big man will have to do for me.
Nerasho Casemiro is how I'm going to go with it. So yeah, we had confirmed that he'd signed that. Actually, we just confirmed that as we came on live last week. So, and then we had the whole transfer deadline day show. I don't think you were on that, mate, but it was at one point I think Kai saying we had 8,000 people watching. So that's fantastic for that. And we did have something to reward them with Nadim Bayrami signing at night. What do you make of those two signings, mate? Were you happy enough with the only two?
I'm pleased we got them done. I was hoping for another couple. To be honest with you, I think we looked close to the window as if we were going to bring in Edozie from Southampton on loan, which sounded quite an exciting signing. A lot of the people from Sky down south, the transfer people, were breaking the story, and I think Fabramano had the story, and then it went quiet. It appears that Rangers changed their mind, but time will tell. Time will tell. I still think we're light. Going in, I think when we spoke last Friday, we were joking that the amount of bodies that had to come in the next 10 hours, and it didn't quite happen. But we got a number 10 in. We just have to work out who's going to pass the ball to him from the deeper positions. But it is what it is. I'm pleased that the transfer window, the saga, the longest window in history, has ended.
Mm-hmm.
We have what we have. I don't see us doing any free transfer business. I just think I think these guys have pretty much been available all through the summer, and I think if we were that keen, we would have done the business before now. So we've got the squad that we've got. We just have to get on with it between now and January.
I mean, on the free transfers or the out of contract players, sorry, mate. For me, it comes down to usually they're injury prone players or the players that have come off big wages and are still looking for a wage that we probably can't afford. And I had a third tier that's now went out my memory, but there's three things for me that puts me off these free transfers. So we've not done any as yet. I think Kai's done a video this week on a couple that we could have signed. I think the best ones have already went though. But there was nobody I'd heard of or that I was aware of in there that was an option for us. So the likes of, was it Sergio Ramos was available? Can't see him coming to us off the wages he's just been on. So not really anything in that. I don't expect to sign anybody. The number 6 position for me was one of the two. So the number 10 and number 6 were the two major signings for me. And we never got someone in at that position. Is that going to cost us, do you think?
I think last Sunday, I think showed we have young players in the middle of the park that have got talent. You know, Diomande and Barron have talent, but I feel like I've said this so many times across the last few months. They need an experienced head alongside. I just need somebody that's a specialist in that position. I think the manager was interested in bringing in. I think we've obviously had links, but it doesn't. I think there's so many things need fixed. I'm disappointed that we didn't address it as a priority. Just because I think you're square pegs round holes. You're asking people, I think, to do jobs that aren't their main skill. If that, you know, I just think asking Connor Barron to be the guy that's taking the ball off the defence, I think it works against Ross County and it works against St Johnstone and teams like that. But I think when you come up in Europe or you come up against Celtic, Aberdeen, I think it's going to be harder. So I think it'll be interesting to see what the manager's plan is. You're assuming Bajrami comes in as the number 10. So I think it's Diomande, Barron and Raskin, 2 of 3, I think will play, along with Bajrami in if you were picking the sort of first 11, you know. But the number 6, we've needed a number 6, not just this summer. We've needed a number 6 for a couple of years. It's been another position that's been neglected due to our poor recruitment. And time will tell if we are proven wrong by not bringing in Billy.
I mean, I think we've not really had a starter at number 6 of the quality required since we had the last season of Ryan Jack being fit. Obviously, we gave him another year's contract, and he hardly kicked the ball for us. I don't think he kicked the ball for Scotland either, but he still got injured playing for them. So, yeah, for me, that, as I said, it was one of the 2 priority places. You could argue another centre half, which supposedly, I'm going to butcher his name again. Supposedly the big man can play that position, but I think he's more of a fullback, is he not?
I think we're signing players, I think, always that have a bit of versatility as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I think you could probably cover both positions, sort of thing. I think when you're operating on a limited budget and that sort of thing, we'll just have to wait and see. We'll just have to see what happens across international break. The team that starts at Tannadice, I don't know, but we have players that can play in the number 6 position, but we don't have a specialist, experienced player, and that's been my concern. Stephen Davis, towards the latter stages before he got the injury, it's almost like you should be starting to think about succession planning and having somebody in the building and that sort of thing. And you've got Bailey Rice, a younger player again. I think the same thing would apply if Bailey Rice was in Connor Barron's position. We would still need to sign an experienced player to help Bailey Rice. And that's no saying sign a 30, 31, 32-year-old. Just somebody that's maybe got 250, 300 games under their belt. But I suppose everybody's looking for these type of players, and I think you don't know. The manager's not going to come out, and I'm sure we have tried, but it's just a frustration for me that we're another 6 months before we can potentially bring one in again.
Well, from the excitement of a transfer deadline day, as you say, the longest transfer window I can remember. Is it the longest transfer window, mate?
It certainly felt like it. I mean, what we got in May, June, July, August, effectively. I know the season didn't end, but links had started very early on, and it just dragged on and on and on. And so much of our business was reliant on, I think, getting wages and bodies out the door. It didn't happen as quickly as we expected that we would like, but I would just love us to have a transfer window that lasted June and July. You know, just compromise a wee bit. I just think the January window is short and sweet. Something similar would be ideal for me, you know. And I think if you're winning trophies, the transfer window probably doesn't bother you as much. I think if you're chasing your tail and you're onto rebuilds and all that sort of stuff, I think you probably fixate more over the transfer window than teams that are solid and not maybe needing too much done.
Well, as I say, mate, the excitement of the transfer window, we then had the excitement of the Old Firm game, which lasted, I think the excitement lasted about 10 minutes for me, because as you were saying there about signing an experienced player, we had a couple on the park. I'm thinking of Robin Proper for a start, and James Tavernier, both experienced. You also have John Souttar, who's been a captain at Hearts. And after the first 10 minutes, I didn't see another captain. I didn't see a captain on that field.
No, I just thought we just collectively, individually and collectively, we just lost all belief. I don't think we had belief. I don't think the players had the belief going into the game that they were going to get anything. And then the negative reaction to Celtic's offside goal, you know, Celtic just kicked on for there, and we never ever recovered after that first sort of negative moment. Leadership, we've spoke about it so many times. You know, they all talk about the captain, but you've named other players that have been captains. You know, we've signed Proper captain, still finding his feet, but still has been a captain. Leadership, John Souttar, Jack Butland, you would consider as one of the new leadership group. I'm not a huge fan of that this modern fad of a leadership group. I just think that it's just another one of these modern football things that I just think's a lot of nonsense. But leadership, bravery. The manager spoke. I done the post match after the game on Sunday, and the manager had spoke before the game about bravery, and that forms part of leadership. And I think the only player, and again I'm repeating what I said on the post match, is James Tavernier didn't have a good game, but James Tavernier for me was the only player that was trying to be brave and go forward with the ball and do something. Whether he was successful in doing that was limited, pretty much. But he's the only player that actually tried to drive forward with the ball. You're wanting more from Matondo and Czerny and Diomande and Lawrence when he comes on and guys like that. You know, but there's a softness to us, and it's not just, this hasn't just become a thing this summer. There's been a soft underbelly to Rangers for too long, and the belief that we had 3 years ago under Steven Gerrard, and we were probably the same distance as Celtic are ahead of us now. We were schooling Celtic 3 years ago, and you know they're now barely having to get out of second gear to beat us.
The disappointing thing for that offside goal, that kicked them on and it kicked us down. And if you contrast that to the Roof goal that was ruled off at Ibrox last season, they went up and scored. So in both occasions, they get the bounce from what should have given us a bounce at the weekend. Like that was chopped off, and we were playing well at the time, but they just regressed into their shell. One thing I haven't touched on, mate, is we did lose a couple of players in the transfer window as well. Obviously, Scott Wright is away. Todd Cantwell is away. We'll talk about him a bit more later on. Were you happy with the clear out in general over that whole window? Have we got rid of the ones you needed rid of?
Pretty much. I think a lot of wages have been freed up. A lot of players that I think had ran their race at Rangers. Some had ran their race much earlier, but it's obviously taken time. I think we're probably only. I still think James Tavernier should have moved on this summer. I think for his own good as much as anything else, because I still think he's been the captain. He's been part of so many second prizes. so many people, you know yourself, Billy. There's been so many conversations in our own chat about him, and it's pretty tiresome, to be honest with you. But I think that's the only one. I think because it just everything I said is as we continue to rebuild, for want of a better phrase, if we have any bumpy moments, regardless of how he does, he's the one that gets. He's the my favourite phrase is he's the lightning rod for criticism. People have made their mind up one way or the other, and it's the truth. For me, it's no black and white with Tav. It's grey. Sort of, it's very much in the middle sort of situation with him. But I do think that for the club's point of view and for his point of view, I think in an ideal world they would have parted their ways during the summer, and then it would have been a complete clean out. Anybody that had previous scar tissue wouldn't be part of it, and the supporters would have to find another whipping boy and scapegoat.
Well, staying on Tav, because Scotty's just put in our chat there that from TalkSport. Now, there was a link this morning on Twitter. I don't know how connected the guy is that posted it, to say there was interest from Qatar and Turkey. Well, now TalkSport are running with that story that Tavernier is in talks, where his representatives are in talks. If that is true, I guess you'd be happy with him moving on, but it does leave us with a bit of a right-back problem, because I would say the right-backs we have to come in are maybe more defensive right-backs. Maybe that's a good thing. If you did go, what's your thoughts?
I'm not as much as I think he should have gone. I think he should have gone earlier in the summer when we had the opportunity to bring in a right back that would fit the mould of what we are wanting from a right back. So it's an interesting one to see. I think conversations have been happening with clubs. I think the Trabzonspor link never really went away. We all thought at the end of July that James Tavernier, I think I said myself, I don't think he'll play for Rangers again at that point, because it looked as though. But Dujon Sterling and Adam Devine and the big guy that's came in, I think, are they just defensive right backs? You know, you just don't know. But I think if we're asking our fullbacks to do what our Rangers fullbacks have traditionally done and going that way, I don't think we have anybody left that that matches that sort of skill set, and we would just have to adapt. But we'll just have to wait and see. There's obviously a handful of windows open, and you can see one or two deals getting done, and we just have to wait and see what happens.
Well, sorry, let's go back to the Old Firm game a wee bit, or after the Old Firm game, because Philippe Clement made some comments after the game that caused a bit of a stir. And for me, mate, I don't think he was watching the same game I was watching. There's one thing that you can use stats to make a game look like it was something else. Because for me, after 10 minutes, we weren't in that game. We were never looked like scoring. And he was basically saying that we had the same amount of shots on target, we had the similar possession, and there wasn't as much in that game as maybe the scoreline suggested. But I'm not going to get taken out. I'm not fooled by those comments. What about you?
Well, I think that there's an expression about polishing a turd, and I think that is exactly what it was to me. I'm glad that I never heard these comments prior to doing the post match last Sunday, to be honest, because I thought we were quite measured and critical in our half an hour that we spoke. That's a nonsense. You're just, who are you trying to kid? And I understand that Philippe Clement isn't going to throw his players under the bus, but you just be honest. We started the game well. We had a couple of opportunities that we didn't take. Celtic scored. We never reacted from that. We need to do better.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's easy. That's all we needed to say.
And I think sometimes less is best, sort of thing. I don't think you have to talk about percentages of possession and number of chances and that sort of thing. I think the manager's under pressure because of results against Celtic, getting knocked out the Champions League, what appears to be continuing to make the same mistakes in games against them. To be honest with you, So, it was very disappointing, and not just be honest. Just tell us what we see, without throwing players under a bus. You can just be honest and say we started well, yada yada yada. We lost. We'll use the international break to rest, recuperate, and come back at Tannadice ready to bounce back. That's all I really needed to say.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. To compound it though, we had Jack Butland, I think after the game as well, thinking he said he had a good game. He tried to defend his positioning for the Kyogo goal, but I'm still of the opinion that he is one of the main factors in all three of the goals being scored. He doesn't do enough, and it's becoming a little bit of a pattern. So for him to say after the game that he had a good game, again, I don't know what game he thought he was playing in.
Certainly, I mean, his performances over the again, spoke about it post-match. I thought certainly the first goal he could do better. Second goal's 100%, terrible positioning. Third goal takes a bit of a nick, but to say he had a good game, I think it's clutching at straws. His performance, like the rest of the Rangers players since March, has regressed. I think he had a good season up until that point. I would say he had a good season. I wouldn't say he had a great season. I think we have a habit as a support to make people heroes, superstars, legends, whatever you want to call them, before they've actually achieved anything. Those that are old enough remember Alan McGregor, Andy Gorham in games against Celtic. The difference makers, the guys that Celtic battered you, and they're making penalty saves, pulling balls out the top corner, that sort of thing. Jack Butland hasn't done that against Celtic. So, yeah, he's a good keeper, but he has to just get back to the levels that he had in the first half of last season. But just going on, I noticed that Cherny is obviously away in international duty, and he was more honest for me. He just basically said we weren't at the races. We need to be better. So obviously he's not doing his press straight after the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think though we were able to do a post match and be honest. Players and managers can be honest the same way, and I just think that it's almost like you're given a sheet of paper, and this is what you have to say. Stick to the party line. Don't do what Dujon Sterling did after I think it was Dundee at the back end of last season, when he just called the performance what it actually was, and then the manager said, well, he lacks a bit of experience, whereas us as supporters appreciated his honesty, because that's I think that fans will appreciate honesty more than sort of platitudes and stats and all that sort of thing.
No, I agree with you, mate. Again, it was a disappointing day all in. One thing I would say from a Rangers Journal point of view, that was one of our most watched videos, mate, after that game. So congratulations on having one of the most watched and streamed on your Spotify and Apple as well. It was all good figures on them. So congratulations for that.
It wasn't enjoyable.
No,
sadly, I've had experience of doing several post matches after an Old Firm defeat. So I'm well. I put that in my CV. Well experienced talking about Rangers being rubbish after an Old Firm game, But I just want to be honest, and I think that's all I expect for the Rangers players and the Rangers manager.
No, I agree with you, mate. Well, Bob, you've joined us. How are you today, mate?
Not too bad. A bit busy, so apologies for my lateness, guys. Hopefully you've not been struggling too much. I know Cammy's not been feeling the best, so hopefully his voice is going to remain a bit more intact now that there's a third party on.
Well, we've kind of done the Old Firm. We're only meant to touch on it for a few minutes as my plans, but we've been going for the best part of 25 now. But so we'll move on, Bob. out this week as well. We talked last week about Hadji, and he's not going to be leaving, so we need to integrate him back into the team. Well,
yeah.
The manager poured cold water over that and basically said he doesn't see him as a starting or a player for Rangers, so he's going to have to find other options. Were you surprised at that?
A wee bit, simply because, again, he's a paid player for the football club now. It's unlikely that he's going to go out the door unless there's, a very last minute, bid from a European club or a club in Saudi, which again there's been no rumours, there's been no links really over the summer with him for a move, other than potentially going back to Romania. There's been no interest from Spain, even from another club outside of Alaves where he was on loan last season. So it's a bit strange that he's been so public in bombing him out of the squad, because I think we've touched on it in the group chat. I'm sure Cammy mentioned it. Was the likelihood is that we are a club that suffer injuries on a very regular basis, and it may come to a point where he is required, and you just don't want him to come in with, he might come in with the attitude of, I'll fight and I want to show the boss that I'm better than what he thinks I am, which would be great. But if Clement's already made the decision that he's not going to be part of the team, he's not going to be selected for squads, it makes it a very bitter end to Hadji's time at the club, which is sad to see, because obviously he's held in obviously high regard by a lot of the support.
Cammy, for me, it must be a financial reason, because he's not a terrible player. He certainly could fight for a place in that team. But if it's rumoured that we have to pay a fee to Ghent, is it, that we've got him from, and also give him a wage rise if he plays any more games, I'm assuming that must be the reason that he's not going to be part of the plans.
Aye, you can only imagine. You're not expecting this sort of detail to maybe come into the public domain, but I think the manager spoke about he's not I can't mind his exact words. He was talking about the number 10 position.
Yeah.
And I think last Friday, I might have spoke about Hadji staying and how he could play off the right-hand side. I think we'd spoke about the role that he had played in the 55 season, not as a conventional winger, but he's got that left foot. He can cut in off the right-hand side, the inverted sort of 10, but the truth, as applies to Cantwell, as applies to Hadji, what comes into the public domain, the truth's always somewhere in the middle between what the club are saying, what the player is saying, and and it's somewhere in between. But I don't think it's a great look for Rangers. I don't think it's a great look for Hadji's agent, that they haven't been able to find him a club. This is an international player that done okay at the Euros. This guy's name is Hadji, which does count for something when you're trying to. I just don't think it's beneficial to anybody for him to be hanging about the training centre, picking up 20 grand a week, and not considered. Something has to give between now and the end of the transfer windows that are left open, because I don't think it does Hadji any favours, and it certainly doesn't do us any favours.
No, I mean, this is the guy that in Romania, he's on cans of Pepsi. His wedding's publicised on national TV, and I just think that it can't just be that he's not good enough for the team, because he must be able to do some kind of job. So I'm going to just have to, as you say, Cammy, read between the lines and think it's maybe somewhere between both of those points, with it being financial and being Clement's view of him as a player. We'll move on. Bob. I don't know what to call you, Bob, but you've got Rob on the screen. Anyway, Connor Barron get called up to the Scotland squad this week, an unused sub in the defeat last night. I don't really talk about the Scotland game, but you've got to think good for him in a way, because you obviously want to play for Scotland. Good for us that we've got an international player, or probably soon to become a captain international player. That always is good for reselling and value of players. But the amount of times, like Ryan Jack, for instance, it would go away and get injured, that's a worry for me, that Scotland isn't really my most important. I still watch Scotland games, but they're not
Yeah.
my most important footballing thing. What was your opinion on him getting the call up?
Yeah, same. Glad to see him getting the recognition that he's deserved, considering the way he started his Rangers career this season. He's, I wouldn't go so far as to say he's been pivotal in the games, but he's certainly shown up well in the games that I've went to see live. And obviously, having trying not to touch on it too much on the very brief highlights that I watched, of the game last weekend. Again, he's shown up well. So again, the recognition's been seen by the manager of Scotland, and he's been called up. So hopefully he goes and starts to make an impact at international level. As you say, that hopefully benefits us in the long run, whether that be with a transfer, hopefully for a good price, but also just the recognition of being an international player playing for the Rangers as well as Scotland. So yeah, hopefully it goes and we get kind of all the benefits from it, but none of the setbacks like we've had in the past, as you mentioned with Ryan Jack. I think again, I'm hoping that if he does, as and when he does make his international debut, Billy, he doesn't get played at right back. I'm not sure he's suited to right back, but then again, probably thought the same of Ryan Jack when he came into the international scene, and that seemed to be a regular place that he was put by the manager. So hopefully he gets in now that the previous Scotland captain has retired from international duty. There's maybe more of a he can have more of a stake in that middle of the park. I definitely don't think Mr. Gilmore will be dropped after seeing his goal last night. So it's really one another, probably if Gilmore's fit, between himself and McLean. So hopefully it gets, again, the youth's on his side. So hopefully we see some positive impact from him in the international scene going forward.
Any viewpoint on it, Cammy? You happy with him getting the call up?
I thought he should have probably made the squad in the first instance, to be honest with you. I think obviously Callum McGregor and Ryan Jack not part of the squad, so I thought there was certainly a spot for him, and he's started the season well. So I think it's worthy recognition for him. I don't think he's going to get any opportunity to play. I think it's just about being part of it, see what he's played for the under-21s, the natural sort of progression. I think there is, as we say there's a spot probably next to Billy Gilmore up for grabs, assuming that's the way that they're going to continue to play. But yeah, as long as he comes back, same as John Souttar and the other international players, as long as they come back fit and ready for Tannadice. But yeah, good recognition for him.
Moving on then, because not really much else to be said on it, I guess. The European squad was announced this week. So before we talk about who's in it, who's not in it, well, I'm going to talk about who's in it because I'm just going to read through who's involved, and then we can talk about the omissions. So our goalkeepers are Butland, Kelly, and I cannot. How do you say that name?
Budenauskas.
Yeah, Budenauskas.
My goodness.
I played football 1,000 years ago with his dad. There's a story for you.
Fair enough. So go into the defenders: James Tavernier, Ridvan Yilmaz, Robin Propper, John Souttar, Dujon Sterling, Jeffrey Canizero, and Leon Balogun. Midfielders are Cortez, Barron, Diamonde, Bajrami, Dowell, and Raskin. And our forwards, Dessers, Lawrence, Cherney, and Igaman. What's your thoughts on that, Scott?
I hope we don't get a lot of injuries. It is what it is. I think we're limited. I think there's only 21 players listed. I think there's obviously the issue with regard to without having a long discussion about not being able to play our quota because we don't have enough Scottish players and that sort of thing. But there's not a lot we can really say. You can question certain players, but I think the role, and I think we had a discussion in our chat yesterday afternoon about it. I think some players are picked because they can play a number of positions, and that's Tom Lawrence can play deeper. He can play whether he's doing these jobs well is that's not the issue. What I'm saying is the manager, I think this is what I think Philip Clement, when they're trying to pick a squad, is trying to pick players that can play in 2 or 3 positions should we get the injuries throughout the period between now and January, so that Lawrence can drop in next to Connor Barron, or Dowell can drop in next to Barron, but he can also play as a number 10, and emergency situation he can play wide. And that's, we've obviously, Danilo has obviously picked up an injury, and he's had an operation, which fingers crossed he is back within the time frame. That's obviously why he's not involved. Rabbi Matondo's picked up the injury, and they're saying out for 2 months. But Egeman is in the squad probably because he can maybe play across the front. I think it just highlights the limitations of our squad, and we spoke at the start about what we were still short of, and I think when you see the European squad, you've obviously still got your Ross McCauslins and guys like that still to be added to the group, but it's quite a light squad, and quite I just hope we can get through these 8 games without having a Leon King and James Sands partnership sort of idea at centre half. You know, we're all still suffering PTSD from that sort of situation. So I just hope we can manage to put 11 on the park across the 8 games that are actually all playing in positions that they can play in.
And Bob, so Cammy's touched on it there. No Matondo and no Danilo, both injured. I don't know. I don't know if Cammy, you heard how long Danilo was meant to be sidelined for.
I think he's had rehab, and he's in Holland, and you know, I think they're talking about a month sort of situation. But this is a guy that's been out since December, has played a couple of hours over the last couple of months. I think September, October. I think you're looking into maybe late October, November before you. So again, you're hoping that Cyril Dessers stays fit. Egeman turns into the Rangers version of R9, and we don't. You know, we are short of bodies, and that's we just have to hope that Danilo, it's just a one of these things off the back of a bad injury.
Bob, for me, Danilo, I just don't know if it's going to work out here for him. He just seems to continually pick up injury after injury. But you surprised? Are you happy enough with that European squad?
I think try to remain positive, as we mentioned in the group chat. Trying to be positive. You're looking at it going, he's probably picked the most versatile squad that he could in terms of players that can play in different positions, which again, I'm a jack of all trades, a master of none. We've touched on that multiple times, but again, I think it's as strong a squad as he could have picked based on what we've got available to us. Again, strange that Matondo's out. Again, there wasn't any form of or any hint in the post-match from last weekend that he'd picked up an injury. As much as I know he was removed before half time. The question about Danilo, I'm not going to say I totally agree. I think he's been unfortunate with injuries he's picked up since he arrived last year. However, obviously I've read into different things that it's just a follow-up operation. He said maybe some fluid in his knee, and it's just that's the only reason why he's kind of been ruled out, because it's going to take 3 or 4 weeks just for the swelling and all that stuff to get done. To go down, after the fluids removed. So again, you're hopeful that he's focused for the league. Again, touching on what Cammy said, it really then leaves Dessers as your main striker in Europe. hopefully then Danilo gets some game time during the league and the cup run, or the cup games, I should say. For such a big outlay on a striker who, again, some fans have got a soft spot for, because again he just seems, again, as we've touched on, and with a lot of these players, they seem as if they're really nice guys in normal life or real life situations, but just when it comes to being a Rangers football player, they're cursed rather than blessed with longevity. I think that's the concern I've got. Again, Eagleman only getting 10 minutes at the weekend was positive to at least see that he was getting integrated into the first team squad, and hopefully when we come back, we'll see more of him between now and Christmas. But yeah, just it does highlight, as Cammy says, how far we've fallen, but how short on real quality we've got in depth in the squad. It's a strong squad on what we've got, but I wouldn't say that you can really hang your hat on 11 of those 21 players being fit for every single game in the Europa League. So again, it just leaves us open to any scares, and I totally agree with Cammy. I hope that we don't get to a point where we're having to throw the B team into it. So yeah, I'm trying to remain optimistic on the games, but the personnel we've got, again, just ties back to what we keep saying over the last few weeks, that we've certainly not got the quality, strength and depth that we hoped we would have by the end of the transfer window.
Cammy, I did an interview probably 3 months ago with the Moroccan football expert, and talking about Eagleman, and he really talked him up as a great prospect, the future of Moroccan football and the national team. So I'm hopeful he's going to come in now that he started, or not started, now he played 10 minutes last week, that he's going to come in and actually push to be that centre forward, at least getting game time. The other good news, I guess, is that Oscar Cortez is back in full training, and hopefully he'll be back. But for the type of, he's similar to the Matondo in the way that, fast players, and they seem to pick up these muscle injuries. That's a worry for me. What about yourself?
Well, I think that's another podcast in itself about Rangers medical rehabilitation and conditioning and all that sort of situation. So that's, the manager spoke a lot about how it was going to be better. But you're quite right. Players of that sort of style with a bit of pace, your Zach Lovelace is obviously another one that's very heavily reliant on pace and has been susceptible to hamstring injuries and what have you. So I think that I think we have to manage these players across this busy schedule, and I think there is going to be a lot of chopping and changing, probably to protect the load and protect the likelihood of a further injury. But Cortez showed early promise, picked up an injury, and then we've got him back. He's picked up an injury. It's very much 2 steps forward, 3 steps back thus far for him. So we just have to, I think, come Tannadice, that we have everybody available, bar I think probably Ridvan Yilmaz and Danilo and Matondo. But we don't have the depth, so we need to have as many players available as we possibly can, so that we can mix it up a wee bit on occasions. Cup ties coming up against Dundee and that sort of thing. That's the sort of game you should be able to make 2 or 3 changes and freshen it up.
You touched on it earlier in the pod, actually, Cammy, about Sam Edozie. Russell Martin made some comments this week that it was us that pulled the plug on that move last minute. We must be, hindsight 2020 and all that, but it must be he must be viewed as a little bit of a mistake, not just getting that deal done.
Well, I think we had also knocked back a loan move for Rabbi Matondo to Norwich, I think was mentioned as well.
Right.
So to be honest, I wouldn't have been up for a loan move. I don't think that's the answer with regard to Matondo, unless they were covering the 30 grand his wages. But I was excited because of Edoze's background. He'd been at Man City. You know, I just think he's had a great upbringing. He's going to be a player. I do recollect him for Southampton as a player that liked to dribble and he liked to beat players, and a guy that would maybe have excited you and be direct sort of thing. But it was strange. We spoke about it at the start. It seemed to be pretty much a done deal at 10:30 last Friday night, and then by 11 o'clock it was. So you don't know what's went on behind the scenes. Maybe what they were looking for a loan fee, or you don't know. And nobody's been. I don't think he was particularly complimentary, saying it was us that have obviously pulled the plug in it. I think it's disappointing, probably from the player's point of view as well, because psychologically he's probably thinking, "Oh, great opportunity to go to a big club," and now he's went elsewhere on loan. I see this week.
Were you disappointed with that, Bob?
Yeah, again, getting a player in is always, I always look forward to that, Billy. I think based on the very short amount of time that we had been linked with him and it had been brought up through, Twitter and social media last Friday, that he was, on the verge of joining the club, you think to yourself, right, okay, maybe a fresh, another fresh attacking player that can play wide, potentially across the front. As we keep kind of discussing or touching on that, again, he seems like a bright player, potential, move in the summer, if all went well. And then it's just strange that we've pulled out with no. Again, understand the club's not going to come out with an explanation as to why they never signed players that we were linked with. That would obviously just be daft. But considering all signs pointed towards him coming through the door before 11 o'clock, to then see it not materialise, and then for Russell Martin, once of our parish, to come out and say it was us that pulled the deal, it further places questions at the board. Maybe not so much at the football recruitment. Well, might very well land a question or two at Neil's Coppin's door as to why, as the director of football recruitment, you never recruited them. Unless there was something that was highlighted in a potential previous medical record or something that, again, if Matondo's not going out the door, that's not going to free up the wages to cover the loan for Edozie. Again, it could be anything. It's the politics of the transfer window, which, as mere mortals, we obviously only get a very small glimpse behind the curtains to at times. So yeah, bit disappointed. Hopefully the boy goes on and does well. Usually where I think it's Anderlecht they went to. Again, there's some pictures looking as if he wasn't best placed to be there, but that's maybe for another pod, depending how well he goes over there. But yeah, I mean, in hindsight, with the Matondo injury, it would have covered us for that area. So again, losing out on that strength and depth, as we've kind of kept touching on in the pod, it's just disappointing that it never went through. But again, we just have to go with what we've got at the moment, and hopefully it allows maybe the likes of Lovelace to come through it and be play a bigger part in the squad than maybe what he was originally going to have.
I'll stay with you, and I don't want to kind of stay on this point for too long because he's not a player anymore. But I noticed an interview with Todd Cantwell last night discussing him leaving us. I took it that he was brought in and told he was going to have a free role under Michael Beale to play along the front anybody wants, and Philippe Clement has a more rigid role for that number 10 role, and he just didn't suit it. So is it fair play, or were you annoyed by his comments?
I wasn't annoyed. I know this might go against what some of us within the group chat will say. I genuinely do wish him well playing for Blackburn. Hopefully he gets his career back on track and goes on to have a far more successful career. Yes, I'm disappointed he's left, considering when he came in, the hype he had around him the boy is a clearly talented football player. Very disappointed that we couldn't get the best out of him during his time at the club. However, I thought he was very diplomatic in his responses to the questions. I did watch I think it's like a 6-7 minute interview that was put out, and he was complimentary to the club. Again, he told the truth, or he told as much truth as he could, or he was honest as he could be regarding the fact that the management changed, the director of football changed, the CEO changed, the club, in all honesty, is different to the club that he joined when Mick Beale signed him 18 months ago, whatever it was, 18 months ago. So to be given a vision by the man, the myth, the so-called legend, Mr. Beale, to be that number 10, his performances just didn't live up to our expectations, considering, again, Cammy's touched on this before, that the fact that we're able to view a lot more football now than we could do in previous years, decades gone by, has allowed us to see Todd Cantwell at his absolute best for Norwich in the Premier League, in the 2010s, in the early 2020s, but the 2010s, he came to the forefront again. Everyone is more than well aware he was linked big money moves to Liverpool, or top 5 team in the English Premier League, and again he certainly has the talent to get there again if he applies himself and he finds a club and a team and a manager that will allow him his flaws and allow him to flourish. But for me, he was, being honest, disappointed about his time, because again he only ever really showed his true talent in flashes. He wasn't consistent, whether that was through injury, through the team effort, through the management, the change in management. There's obviously a lot of factors that are probably at play, but again, I can only wish him well at Blackburn. Hopefully he gets his head down and actually becomes the player that I think we all expected him to be at Ibrox.
Cammy, I'll come to you on that just for briefly on the same subject, but I was listening to one of the Heart and Hand podcasts, and Alexander Staff had said that before he came to us, he'd actually considered just giving up football because he wasn't enjoying it. He's just one of these guys that if it's not fun for him, he doesn't want to do it, and I can kind of understand that. Nobody wants to be in a job that you find it's laborious and boring. So I think it was just the role he was asked to do under Clement wasn't for his personality.
Aye, that's. I suppose you think as a footballer, they're different to you or I. If you're working for a boss that you don't like, you start looking for other things and that sort of situation, So time will tell. Time will tell. He's a player that's got ability. I think there's a player that thinks. I do think he thinks he's a better player than he actually is. I think he's bought into the hype of those 30-40 million pound links back in the day at Norwich, but I think he just has to get his head down, concentrate on his football, concentrate less on his social media and his Instagram stories, and just he's going into a tough league. He's going to have to graft. I don't think you're going to be able to, a favourite expression of mine, sand-dance about the English Championship. I think you still have to put the graft in, and you still have to be part of the team. And I think it's John Eustace, I think's the manager that he's got at Blackburn. So I don't think John Eustace is going to rub his tummy in the same way that Michael Beale did. But it'll be interesting. I'll be interested to see what the rest of his career looks like.
Well, when I put out earlier on in our kind of chat for this show, talking points for today, your response was lots of positive chat. I didn't realise you were being sarcastic at the time, but we're going to finish up with something more positive, because during the week, Rangers announced that we would indeed be back at Ibrox for the game against Dundee in the Cup, albeit with the Copeland still not open. But that is great news, isn't it? Because the whole, I guess, atmosphere of the fans hasn't been helped, the fact that we're playing at Hampden?
Aye, without a doubt, it's home. You know, that's what we're all used to. I've spoke about it before. We've all got our match day routines, how we go to the game, people we meet before the game. Said before, sell the halftime draw, meet people in the West Enclosure that I see every other week, and that when that routine's taken away from you, it's, you know, Hampden. I don't like Hampden for semi-finals and finals, you know. So to go for 4 or 5 games like we did, it's great. It's great to be back, and I think what the work, we've obviously seen a lot of updates and pictures of people inside the stadium, and the job itself I don't think was the most complicated job in the world. It just needed all the materials to be on site, and hopefully lessons will be learned for future activities. But I can't wait to get back, and even though the Copeland isn't going to be open, I think the size of the crowd that will be available will be enough to get us back home for the league game the following Sunday against Hibs, a full Ibrox. And all the negativity was only magnified by not being at Ibrox. You know, I think it only compounded everything else, the frustration. So get back to Ibrox and try to make Ibrox a fortress again, and just try to get the positivity, and try to get what Clement said, the synergy between the supporters and the team very early on when he took charge. Try to get that again with a relatively new group of players.
Bob, are you going to be at this first game back?
I'm going to try to be. As I think I've said before, my ticket is in the Copeland stand, so I'm going to have to apply for a ticket, which opens next Thursday morning at 10 a.m. So I'll probably need to go in and see if I can get a ticket at that point. But yeah, looking forward to it. I think, you know, Cammy's and yourself have said it in the group chat, said it. It's home. You know, hopefully the club needed to announce something positive after the weekend. Whether, you know, ideally it would have been a new player and going back to Ibrox, but I'll take going back home any day of the week, to be fair. So again, I think there was pictures released this morning or today showing the progress that had been made in getting the seats back in. I think the only reason that they're still closing the Copeland for that particular game is to get the concourse and a couple of the interior parts finished or completed. So yeah, again, hopefully all roads lead to Hibs at home the following week, which is sadly a game I'm going to have to miss. It's my birthday on that particular Friday, and we're going away for the weekend. So I'll definitely make the Dundee game. I'm a bit gutted I'll not make the actual first home game back, but I guess I'll just need to take my medicine with that one.
Is that your 21st?
I wish. Add on a few years to that, Billy. Yeah, it's a significant birthday, but it's the one after 39. So
I've beaten you to it, but my birthday's on Sunday this week, so I'm not. The numbers start to over 40. You're just dreading every year. I was fine up until then.
Yeah, just enjoy the fact you're still getting to go at the games. I think that's my main takeaway at this age. So, but yeah, again, looking forward to it. It was good, positive news story to come out of the club, and again, hopefully in next summer. And I know we don't want to touch on it too soon, but again, if they're going to do something similar to the Broomloan, I think they've learned the lessons from this summer that make sure all the materials are on site before you start anything, because the last thing we need is another saga to do with the stadium this time next year. So yeah, hopefully all going well. It's a positive result in the cup on the 21st, and hopefully we get a sellout stadium for the first fully reopened stadium for a home game for the Hibs game. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Well, Cammy, I think that'll about do us. Any other points you wanted to bring up before we finish up?
No, I think obviously we met last Friday when the Europa League draw was was coming out, and I was laughing as the opposition. You know, the hardest Europa League draw I think anybody's ever seen. But the fixtures have obviously came out for that. The fixtures give us an opportunity. I think the early fixtures, we don't go to Man United until January. I think we've got Tottenham just before Christmas. Rangers, I think, are obviously trying to discuss when the right moment is to drop the bomb that is the ticket package for the 4 games. I think it'll be very interesting to see how we price that. I think our rivals across the city have priced theirs. I think it's about 184 for the 4 games, which I think is reasonable. Certainly by comparison to Aston Villa's prices, it's very good. But I'm hoping that Rangers price it around the 165 to 170 pound mark. But I think to try to not get a negative fan reaction, I think they have to make sure that we can pay it across the 4 games like we did before, because you know it's a big ask, and I think when the mood within the support isn't at its highest, I think you have to try and read the room a wee bit and try to get as many of these games sold out as possible. For us to have an opportunity to be in the top 24 teams, you need to be positive in your home games, and you have to pick up points in your home games. So I'm interested to see when they drop that, because the timing, the OCD in me is like going, I wonder when they'll take the money off, because of when the dates are. So I think we play the 3rd of October. So generally you would probably try to take the payment off maybe on the 1st of October, but it's quite tight. And then the next game's at the end of October. So it's how I'm interested to see how they propose to take it. They may just say it's 170 quid and you're paying it in a winner, but I think a lot of people will vote with their feet if it comes to that. I think a lot of people will just watch the game on the telly if that's the road that the club. But hopefully common sense, and they're maybe consulting with the fan advisory board and other people within fan media to ask the supporters, read the room. You know, I think that's, as a club, I think we need to learn in that regard. So that's really it for me. Just international weekend, and back to reality and Tannadice in a week or so's time.
Well, thanks for coming on, mate. Bob, anything you wanted to bring up?
No, I think the less said about last weekend, the better. I'm kind of glad I missed that part of the chat, to be honest. Yeah, just looking forward to, moving forward, getting back to Ibrox, getting to see the newer players. I mean, Bayrami looks a good player. I caught up on David's interview, which was a good one. If people haven't seen it, they should definitely go check it out. So again, he looks as if he's hopefully going to be the type of player. Again, I think Billy, you'd mentioned it on that particular pod. The fact he's versatile across that front hopefully allows us to see more of what Clement wants to do in terms of style of play with the team. So yeah, looking forward to seeing him in action. Also the Casan Virgil, again, I'm sure we'll continue to mispronounce that in the coming weeks to come. Coming weeks, the big man. Yeah, hopefully there's a bit more squad rotation and first team rotation between now and Christmas. So yeah, just looking forward to getting back and seeing the team play some positive football.
Yeah, I did want to plug that interview before we finish, because I found it okay. I was on the chat afterwards, but I actually found the interview really interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play. So that's us for today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your comments, if you've made comments, and remember, like and subscribe. We're nearly at that 2,000 viewers mark, so it'd be great to get to that as soon as possible. I think we'll be there or there enough by next week. Hopefully we'll be back next Friday with the Rangers news, and it just leaves me to say thank you again for watching, and every night is a Rangers Journal night. Goodbye.